Hi, this is just Robert with a few comments about the case study assignment. I had a student talk to me yesterday about the idea of flexibility in accounting. So this is, I think, one of the earlier parts of the assignment. When we talk about flexibility, we really mean two things. So once you've identified your key accounting issues, for each accounting issue, what we would like you to do is look at, firstly, the level of choice that an accounting standard explicitly gives you. And then secondly, the level of choice you have in the estimates that you're required to make to report. So let me give you an example. If one of your key accounting policies is property, plant and equipment, then under the relevant standards, your standard level choice is the choice between using the cost model or the fair value model. Okay, so that's the level of choice that the standard gives you. Below that, there's a second level of flexibility, and that level of flexibility relates to estimates. So, for example, it doesn't matter whether you're using the cost or the fair value model, you still have some flexibility in determining the useful life of an asset and an estimate of its residual value. And therefore, you have flexibility in relation to the amount of depreciation that you count. Similarly, when you look at whether an asset is impaired, there is some subjectivity in assessing recoverable amount. How do you assess value in use? You need to predict cash flows into the future. You need to know what the discount rate, or assume what the discount rate is. So there's some flexibility there. And there's also some flexibility in assessing fair value. Yes, sometimes the fair value will be pretty obvious. There's a market price out there. But if there isn't a market price out there, then you go to levels 2 or 3 of the fair value, where some subjectivity is involved. So just to recap, you've got 2 levels of flexibility. One is the choices the standard gives you. Do you use the cost model or do you use the fair value model in relation to property, plant and equipment? The second level, the level below, is once you've made one of those choices, how much flexibility do you have in relation to the estimates of numbers or factors that go into calculating numbers? So really with flexibility, we're asking, if you've got one set of economic circumstances out there, how much choice do you have in relation to how you report that? It's sort of like saying, if I ask you to measure something with a ruler, and the ruler is divided up into millimeters, then you can quite clearly give somebody an answer to the closest millimeter. But if it's divided up into centimeters, and it's halfway between, it's hard to say exactly how many millimeters a thing is. So you've got some flexibility in the measurement process, and it's very hard for somebody to check that, right? So there's an economic reality out there, and there's the accounting measure of that economic reality. How far away from economic reality can you get before people start becoming suspicious? It's one way of defining flexibility. So anywhere you've got a subjective choice, you've got flexibility. So once again, if the accounting standard gives you choices between 2 methods, that's one part of flexibility. But even if you have no choice between methods, you've only got one method, that method might require you to make a number of estimates. And they also give you flexibility. Okay, hopefully that answers the question in relation to flexibility.